man who's called the last 7 Super Bowls on Westwood 1 and called last night's Super Bowl 51 stunner, barn burner, heartbreaker, if you will, depending on what side you're on. Kevin Harlan here on The Rich Eisen Show. How are you, Kevin?
Great to be on with you, Rich. Thank you. I'm doing well.
Where does this one rank?
Number 1, Butler with the interception on the goal line of Russell Wilson a couple of years ago. Probably a very close second, but the comeback in such historical terms, I think, would have to rank number 1. What about for you?
That's number 1 for me, Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But I also haven't called games in the tournament. I haven't called games in the association. What about you, Kevin? I mean, where does this one rank, period, for your career, do you think?
Well, the tournament all kind of blends together. I've done that for 18 years for CBS, and they're all great. I don't mean to diminish any kind of significance, but the Super Bowl is such a singular event with the build-up for the entire fall, and it just is so captivating. And yesterday's game was so compelling. I've read just a few stories. I'm in Washington now because I've got a game time for TNT. So as I was working my way to the airport, I was looking at some of the stories written about, what was said by Belichick in that locker room at halftime. And they said it was business as usual. No one blinked, and it showed. But they made the adjustments as they always do. And you just knew they were not going to stick with that score. I just had a feeling. Mike Holmgren said, he was on our broadcast yesterday, and Rich, he said that to me, the most potent and significant, intangible there is momentum. And when Atlanta had it in the first half, it was undeniable. But when the Patriots captured it in the second half, you just knew what we were going to see. He said momentum is a killer. It'll work for you when it's on your side, and it'll put you to death when it's against you. We saw what it did against Atlanta yesterday and what Belichick again has done. He did not blink. The team, they stick to what they do, and they tired out that defense. And by virtue of that, they've got a 5th Super Bowl.
Yeah, with all that said, though, the Julio Jones catch, I thought that was it. I honestly, obviously 28-3, I thought that was it too, but when Julio Jones made that catch, and that to me outdid the Tyree grab in my mind in terms of skill set, in terms of what it meant also for the team, similar. Also the fact that Ryan escaped a pocket, not pirouetting like Eli. But to me, I thought, okay, this game now has its big seminal moment, incredible catch, 22-yard line, 4 minutes to go. This is a wrap. Despite all the momentum change, I really thought that was it, Kevin. I'm wondering what you thought.
I would agree. I mean, I think we all did. I mean, I don't know how you could think otherwise. Yet at the same time, when you start looking at the number of plays and how little the Atlanta offense was out there and how much New England had stuck to what they were doing and even maybe playing conservative in some ways, as they seemed to just kind of chip away at you, you always had that feeling that they weren't done. And Mike said right about that time, there's a lot of time left in this game. And sure enough, Hightower comes in and barrels down on the quarterback, is one of the big defensive plays, the strip sack. They put pressure. They drive him all the way back. They could have kicked a field goal, as we know. They could have run more Devontae Freeman. There were so many things they could have done, but they chose to play on the edge a little bit, empty the backfield, put him in the shotgun formation, and he was exposed. And they probably exited from the script a little bit. The catch, by the way, by Jones was just absolute. I totally agree. Sensational in every way. And he was quiet almost up until that point, to be quite honest. And Sanu had been quiet, too. Sanu had been so versatile and so effective against Green Bay 2 weeks prior in the NFC Championship game. But they were having their way up 28-3. I mean, what else would you want them to do? And they broke script a little bit, and the Patriots, their defense kind of triggered it. This is the number 1 defense in pro football, and they went at them, and you just knew that they were waiting for Atlanta to make a mistake. Atlanta had to play almost a perfect game from the opening kickoff to the final gun, and that was the mistake. The play calling, the strategy they used, they drove them back near midfield, they punt the ball, And to me, you could sense that, we've got time left in the third. Brady's there. He's been in this situation before. And you could sense there was a little shift in momentum at that point.
Kevin Harlan, who called the Super Bowl on Westwood 1, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. To me, I opened the show saying this, Kevin. I'd love to get your thoughts on it. The conversation's over as to who's the greatest quarterback in the history of the National Football League. And that ended the conversation. The second half in overtime ended the conversation. It's Tom Brady. Where do you stand on that subject?
I, again, totally agree. And I'm going to put Belichick in there as probably the greatest coach, certainly in the modern era. But when you look at, Rich, what they've done in this little bit less than 2 decade span with them together, and then go back in history, look at Lombardi and Starr and the multiple Hall of Famers they had. Landry and a couple different quarterbacks and the multiple Hall of Famers the Cowboys had. Noel in Pittsburgh with Bradshaw and the many Hall of Famers they had right there. Walsh in San Francisco with Montana and the championships and the Hall of Famers. And then look at the Hall of Famers that Belichick has coached and Brady has played side by side with in the body of his career. There are none. Right? Logan Mankins, Vince Wilfork, maybe Brewski, Richard Seymour, Ty Law was on the ballot. None compare to some of the greats that have played during those dynasties of the past. Yet here's Belichick, who has a revolving door with his roster, different players every year. I make out my spotting boards every year, and we do a Patriot game. Who's this guy? Where did this guy come from? But they're so clever. They're so well schooled. They believe in the game plan. They know where they're supposed to be. They don't extend. They don't reach out. They don't break the bounds of what that play is designed to do and what their role in that play is. And that's the beauty of what we're seeing. Great coaching in the salary cap era, in the incredible free agency that, of course, can take a hold of a team, battling that, putting together a roster, all the different things going on. And here's the great success continuing now into a second decade for both Belichick and Brady. And I do agree with you. Brady is the greatest quarterback, I think, that has ever played.
I'm wondering, have you ever had a chance to bring up Belichick to Popovich at any point?
The same. It is the same exact thing, and I have. And I've asked Greg on several occasions, do you admire Belichick from afar? Have you ever crossed paths? Have you ever talked with him? And he is a little standoffish in the answer. But the similarities, and you're so right to bring this up, Rich, are just you can sense them in every turn you make. When you cover a Spurs game, you see the same basic principles, the unselfish play, the following the text and don't deviate from the script that you see with the New England Patriots. There is no panic. There's never panic. There's always the mainstay. It was Duncan. It is Brady. The parallels are undeniable.
And also in the same way that you're filling out your board, like, who the hell is this guy? Where Belichick finds someone from a small school, Popovich and the Spurs find someone from a small town in another corner of planet Earth, and they still win. It's similar in that regard too.
They've used the overseas component. They've got a very deep and thorough scouting department. They're not gimmicky. They look at the statistics. They devour analytics, but they don't let that guide them. There is a consensus, which there is a lot with the Belichick coaching staff. Everybody is in. He has trained young coaches and assistants in San Antonio, as Belichick has coached younger men to play a certain role. Sometimes they begin as video coordinators. And if he's got an offensive coach, he wants him to coach on defense for a couple of years. And if he's got a rising defensive coach, he makes him coach on the offensive side. He wants them to know each side of the football intimately. And he said that's part of the process. And like San Antonio has with Popovich, and how they bring these guys through, whether it's Budenholzer or any of the coaches that are in the league right now that you see that have San Antonio fingerprints on them. The same is very true with Belichick. To varying degrees, if they can extend it and recreate it other places, sometimes there's success. Bill O'Brien is still a work in progress. If you could find a quarterback after going through 8, it would be terrific. But I think he probably resembles, Rich, as much of what Belichick is and the schooling. He showed it at Penn State for the 2 years, and I really sense that he frames a game like Belichick does. I think Belichick just makes it so crystal clear what everybody's role is, what the priorities are, that there's no problem in seeing through the gunk that can fly during a game. They keep that compass always pointed in the right direction, and it guides the entire team.
All right, and you already turned the page to Cavs Wizards tonight on TNT, right, Kevin? You're already there. Unbelievable.
I know it's trying to catch up with John Wall. Actually, it's a very good game.
It is.
Number 1 seed against the number 3 in the Eastern Conference. 17 consecutive Wizard wins at home. And the place is going crazy here in the nation's capital.
Well, I'll tell you what, Kevin. If somebody comes back from 25 points down tonight, we'll know it's you and not anything else. Okay?
Okay.
Look forward to seeing that tonight. Thanks for calling.
You, Rich. Always great to be on.
Likewise, that's Kevin Harlan.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.